Yes, I'm live again. Okay, now to get people in here. Alright, sorry about that. YouTube said that I was using unauthorized, copyrighted material. Um, we weren't playing music or anything. Maybe maybe it's the Eagles stuff. I don't know. Can you all see me now or no? See, I have 3 people. 2 people. I might have made it worse. Come on. Oh, thank goodness you guys can see me now. Hello, how are yous? Hopefully we don't get cut out because of the copyrighted stuff. Hi, Michaela. All right, Anthony. Let me go check it really quick. Hopefully we get more than a couple people. Just responded to you in classroom, Anthony. Mr. Roebuck's having trouble. So, it's funny. All right, so we got 5 people now. Who's the 5th person who's in here? Well, the good news is that I'll be doing this 2 more times today with my US kids, so I should have all of the annoying stuff worked out by next week. But yeah, so I don't want to take up too much of your time, so let's start. We'll work with what we got here, our 5 people. So, are there any questions or comments anybody wants to start out with? Who wants to go first? What do we want to do? What were you saying in the Google about Google? Oh, Google Meet. It's not as secure as YouTube is. So with YouTube, I can kind of have a personalized stream that's connected to my computer, whereas Google Meet is the program's entirely on Google itself, so it's nothing starting with my computer. In other words, my firewalls on my personal computer are a little bit stronger than just being online. What'd you guys think of the video from yesterday? Did you like the Russian Rev lecture? Ah, Michaela, the Tsarina. So, you have your Tsar, which is your king, then you have your Tsarina, who's the queen. Okay? I know it's a weird word, but Tsarina is just the feminine form of Tsar. Why were they called serfs? It was actually serfs with an E instead of a U. I'm actually not sure why they called them serfs, but the main idea, I think it was because of a word in Russian that sounded like serfs, but it's very not familiar with that. The big point is that it's a peasant who's bound to the land. Autocracy is when you have a government that's very powerful and very controlling. When you think of autocrat, think of despot or absolute monarchy, anything like that. when did they start calling Russia the USSR? So they started calling Russia the USSR, or the United Soviet um, Socialist Republic, um, right after Lenin took power. So Lenin takes power, and he says we need to rename the Soviet Union because we're no longer just Russia. Because we joined with Georgia, Armenia, Azerbaijan, um, the Ukraine. All these different countries suddenly get attached to Russia. So they say, well, we can't just be called Russia anymore because technically we're not Russia. So they say we're the United Soviet Socialist Republics. Okay? Changed when Lenin came in. This revolution is the time where we change from Russia, which we've been for centuries, to the Soviet Union. Okay? And why did they execute the king and royal family? So, remember I was saying how the Allies were invading Russia, and they were charging in and helping the whites? Well, their main goal was to restore the Tsar, or restore the monarchy. So they say, we can't have a communist government in this world, so what we're going to do is we're going to charge in, okay, and we are going to restore the Tsar. So Lenin says, well, we can't have that. So not only does he execute the king and the queen, so the Tsar and the Tsarina, he also executes all of their children. Okay? He says, well, if one of these kids escapes or we let these kids go, what if they find their way to the whites or the Allies? Okay, the Allies will just call us illegitimate and put the crown on the children's head. So they said, if we just kill the entire family, there's no chance that the Allies or the whites could ever say we're illegitimate because there's a king and queen who are ready to take the throne. Does that make more sense? Or is it more confusing now? Main idea is if we get rid of the royals, there's no chance that they could come back and take power because they're dead. Why did Russia remain an autocratic country? Mainly because, think of it this way. You start out, you're fresh, you're new, you're inexperienced in ruling a country, and suddenly half of the country's up in arms. Okay? Everything that you've worked for, that you've put together, that's brand new, that you have so much faith in, is about to fall apart and is about to be reset back to the old ways. Everything you've worked for is basically going to be thrown in the trash. So, Lenin says we need to have a very strict form of communism. The state needs to be in control because we cannot lose what we've created. We cannot fail the working class. Okay, their whole idea was if we let the old ways come back, if we let the monarchs come back and the serfdom come back, then we've failed the people. Okay, and everything goes back to normal. All the people who have died have gone for nothing. So they say, okay, the best way to move forward after this civil war is to be an autocracy, to be a very powerful government. Okay? So it was the idea that I'm going to rule with an iron fist so that, because I know that, I know what's best for the people. Okay, I'm going to rule with an iron fist because the people don't know what's good for them and they don't know how to rule themselves, so it's up to me to guide them. Was it fair for Tsar Nicholas to give up his throne? Wasn't it more his wife's issue? What do you mean his wife's issue? Do you mean because she was ruling the country and he was off fighting in World War I, or what do you mean by that? Because I would say it's still the Tsar who's in charge. Okay, so it's very patriotic. A very why did I blank on the word? Patriarchal. Sorry, thinking patriotic. Patriarchal society, which means that men are in charge. Okay, so the people are looking to Tsar Nicholas II, and they're saying, even if you're not here, you're still the king, you're still the czar, you're still the ruler, okay? So even though you're not here and you left your wife in charge, you're still ultimately in charge, okay? If you were to come back tomorrow, she would have to do what you say. The government would have to do what you say. So for Tsar Nicholas II to abdicate really was saving not only himself, but his wife and his children, okay? Because Alexandria wasn't very... she was an okay leader, but she wasn't great. Remember, she's letting Rasputin control everything. She's very weak because she looks weak, because not only is she a woman, but she's also the wife of a weak czar who's off fighting in a war they don't want to be part of. So I guess from Nicholas's point of view, it would have been best to abdicate because it's safer for him. Okay, he doesn't have to deal with it anymore. All right, he said, let the Russians deal with it themselves, let them govern themselves. And, you know, it's really difficult when you're leading and you're fighting on the front and you think that your people are loving you and you think that, you're fighting this final war to, defend Russia once and for all. And then to hear reports that the people hate you, the people are rioting, the people are think that you're very unpopular, that your wife's unpopular, that Rasputin's unpopular. It's very difficult to turn around and just say, oh, well, you know what, I'm going to keep ruling. Not only is it difficult, it's dangerous. All right, he didn't want to be assassinated. He didn't want his children to be executed. He was a big family man, just like his wife. So he was thinking, how can I protect my family? Why did they send the serfs into war? Didn't they already have an army? So they did have a military structure, but they didn't have enough soldiers, okay? So they did have officers, generals, all that kind of stuff that were already in place. But the regular dregs that were just fighting in the army, there were not enough of them when the war started, okay? So by the time they realized, hey, we need more people, of course they're going to turn to the serfs. The serfs are the poor, the peasants, they're bound to the land, they're supposed to be Russian loyalists. If we force them to fight, that's more people for our war. So, true, they already did have an army, but the serfs added numbers. Okay, we said millions of Russians were dying, right? So they didn't have an army of millions of people. Okay, they only had a couple thousand or a couple 100,000 to start with. When the war starts getting ugly for them, they say we need more people. They start sending serfs against their will. Okay, why didn't the people plot to kill him? Do you mean plot to kill Lenin or Nicholas or Rasputin? Because there were assassination attempts for all of them. But I'm going to take it that you said the Tsar. They did try to kill him a couple times. However, they said, well, hold on. Let's follow France's lead. Okay, what happened during the French Revolution? Well, they arrested the royal family, right? They kept them alive for a year or two. Okay? And, if we need legitimacy, we have the monarchs right here to force them to say that they're, supportive of us. If we just execute them, we look like, hostile takeovers. We look like conquerors, not revolutionaries. Okay? So it's not going to be until the Civil War starts that they're going to kind of say, well, now we have to kill the Tsar and Tsarina and the royal family because they're a threat to our legitimacy now. If they escape, they could lead an army of Russians and they could appeal to the Russian patriotism and say, hey, put the rightful rulers back into place. God had appointed us. All right, you're trying to overthrow us. You're conquerors, okay? And then with Lenin, there were a couple assassination attempts, but he was also seen as, this very patriotic revolutionary leader. Okay, he was seen as the Napoleon for Russia, all right, for his supporters, certainly. And largely the areas that they controlled supported him. A, they didn't have a choice, and B, most of these people were still uneducated. Okay, we're still not seeing public education. So most of the people are hearing, oh, you're fighting for the peasantry? Well, that means you're here to save us. Okay, the autocrats and the aristocrats don't care about us. Lenin's the man. All right, so they're really rooting for Lenin. They're saying, you know, he's our savior. He's going to make Russia great again. Okay, um, yeah. So, are there any other questions? And I mean, we saw what happened to Rasputin. Murdered 4 times, still alive. It didn't happen until they chopped him up and threw him in a river that he actually died. Any other questions? See, we have new viewers. Do you guys have any concerns about the way we're learning? Is this easier because it's been a little slower paced than we usually are? Like, usually I'm flying through material. We're kind of taking our time with World War I. Do you think this is a little bit better? Or do you think, you know, this is pretty much what we did at school? Yep, this is the only thing in history today. I saw that you guys were here and you're participating. You'll get your 2 points for this. Yeah. I'm pretty sure there wasn't a daily question. Mr. Roebuck posts those. Let me check really quick. So there is a daily question. All right, so once you're done with the live stream, you can go over to the daily question. I think some of you already did it, though. Yeah, some of you already did the daily question. What did Vladimir Lenin promise the people when he returned to Russia in 1917? Okay, the answer to that is bread, peace, and land. Okay. Hi, Hidessa, how are you? I'm glad that you're back and able to join us. Why were women paid less for doing the same job as men? Oh, Hidessa, join us at 10 o'clock. This is world history right now. Okay. I hope I didn't say 9 a.m. with U.S. kids. But Hidessa, I will see you back at 10 o'clock when we start talking about the United States during World War II. Right now we're talking about the Russian Revolution and world history. So if you want to just take a break and come back a little later. So Michaela Goods, he was saying we want to take Russia out of the war, but that was part of his overall approach of bread, peace, and land. Sorry, Hidessa. So he promised the people bread. They were starving. He said, we will feed you. We will give you supplies. He promised peace. We will take you out of the war. And he promised land. Okay? Because what do the peasants want more than anything? Just like the French Revolution. They want food, peace, and land of their own. What do you think of Lenin? What do you think of him? Rasputin. Do you think he's an interesting figure? There's a lot of talk that he and Alexandra were canoodling behind Tsar Nicholas II's back, but as much as you would think that was happening, there really wasn't a relationship between them, like a sexual relationship. It was more so, you saved my children, thank you so much. So much more of a trusted advisor, a trusted spiritual companion, because remember, he's a monk. But there's no evidence that they were canoodling or anything like that. Anthony, is Russia still a dictatorship today? It's difficult because we still don't know how everything works in the Russian government today. Um, just like when the Soviet Union was in power, we really didn't know if what they were telling us was the truth about how everything was being run. Um, but we'll talk about this later in the semester when we start really moving. Um, Once the Soviet Union falls apart, so the Soviet Union's going to last from 1917 to 1991. Once that falls apart, the mobs, the mafia, the organized crime organizations, they're really going to take power in Russia. Okay, but old people from the KGB, which is like the CIA or FBI of the Soviet Union, um, they are going to maintain some sort of power. So, like Putin today, Vladimir Putin, he's the current president of Russia. He was in the KGB during the Soviet Union in the 70s and 80s, um, and now he's the president. So he's working with these crime bosses to kind of keep Russia together and keep power. Okay, he's also on very good terms with the Duma and the generals in the military. He is. It basically is a dictatorship, and it's certainly starting to look like an official dictatorship because he's just said um, he's trying to revise the Constitution currently and kind of say that he can rule Russia forever and doesn't need the Duma's help. Emily, yes, he was a cultist. He was very much a cultist. People loved him. They thought he was a powerful being. Alexandra was his biggest supporter. She was like, "Oh my God, you're magic. You healed my son who was anemic." Okay. Craig, is the song on Rasputin true about him? What song specifically? There's a couple. Yeah, Emily, he was very much like a cult leader. He was very spiritual, um, very much connected to God because, again, he was a monk. Um, but he also let people say, "Oh, Rasputin is this healer. He's a great leader. He's a great godly man." Okay, because he was very charming. Okay, especially towards women. He was very charming, very uh, sophisticated, if you want to say that. Um, and people looked at him and said, he's this godly healer who saved the royal family's children. Okay, he must be good. Oh, rah rah Rasputin. Let me look up the lyrics for that really quick. There lived a certain man in Russia long ago. He was big and strong, in his eyes a flaming glow. Most people looked at him with terror and fear, but to Moscow, to Moscow women, he was such a lovely dear. He could preach the Bible like a preacher, full of ecstasy and fire, but he was also the kind of teacher women would desire. Um, yes. He was a ladies' man. Okay, so he was very much into uh, getting women to follow what he's saying and support him because somehow to women he was attractive. Um, but again, the first line of that song is not true. Um, uh, uh, but he did have a very close relationship with the Tsarina. Okay. Are there any final questions before I let you guys go? Anything else? Darker Object, who are you? Trying to help Mr. Roebuck to come on. Hopefully he can make it for the next session. My Ed TPA is due this week and I'm terrified. Oh, hi, Zamir. Um, I'll be back on a different live stream at 10 o'clock, okay, for the US kids. I'm trying to spread them out so that United States history doesn't interfere with world history. So you can come back at 10 o'clock. At the end of the song, they say they tried to poison him and shot him till he was dead. Yes, it is true. They tried to poison him, they shot him several times, and it wasn't until they cut him up, allegedly, they cut him up and threw him in the water that he actually died. Um, he was a weird survivor. Rasputin just wouldn't die. Okay, the guys that were in charge of executing him and dragging his body out, they were getting frustrated because no matter what they did, this guy was just surviving. Okay, certainly he was in pain, but he was still surviving. It was insane. Any final questions? Anything else you'd like to talk about? Any questions? Anything not related to the Russian Revolution? Anything about class that you'd like to know about? So I can kind of give you a clearer answer rather than just typing it for you. I'll give you like another 2 minutes to type. I'm doing this until noon, and then I have a meeting from 1:30 till 6. So, a very long meeting. Zamir, Rasputin was very close. We were just talking about how Rasputin was very close with the Tsar and Tsarina. Um, the Queen loved him. Okay, so uh, you're right on the money that he was Russia, but yeah, he wasn't the monarch. He just was very close with the monarchy, and he was very close with the last monarchy. Anthony, can we come back to school? Because I hate learning online. No, not until everything calms down. Um, Staying at home is the best thing to do right now. Um, if you look on CNN, um, right now, it's a very bleak picture, but things are going to get better. Remember, we survived this in 1918. We'll survive it again. Okay? I don't know if I can join ours in HV class on Zoom for finance. Oh, gotcha. Okay, that's fine. I see that you're on now, Zamir. If you can join us, feel free to. There's another one at 11 o'clock for my third block class. So, Zamir, if you want to, make sure you go to financial literacy. I don't want you to miss that. Come to history if you can. I saw that you tried to get on, so you're good. Hi, Jamin. I kind of like it too, Craig, but the hard part is that, like, Mr. Roebuck and I are trying to catch up and trying to get materials organized that we think you guys would be able to handle with as little help as possible. So, like, watching the lectures, coming to the live streams, all that. Yes, Craig. Especially in China. Okay, China, Japan, and India. They said that Wuhan market, you too, Zamir, they said that Wuhan market, one of the positive consequences of the quarantine was that they saw blue skies for the first time in a long time. So the virus is bad for humans, but good for the earth. Yes. Yeah. Yeah, the virus, I mean, it's not like the virus is doing anything, it's a consequence. You too, Zamir. Stay safe, stay healthy, cover your mouth, wash your hands. It's good to hear from you, buddy. Any last questions? Anything else? I love talking on the live chats. It's very fun when it works. Love talking to you guys. Miss you guys. Jamin, if you want to go back and listen to, read some of the questions and listen to my responses, feel free to do so. Again, I apologize for it being late. The program was freezing up for some reason. I don't know why. Korea's been giving free checkups? Good. How is it in South Korea? I'm asking generally. Because I haven't heard much. I heard that there's a lot of cases there, but I haven't heard much in terms of how they're coping with it. Everybody's focused on Europe and the United States, very Eurocentric. If you have heard anything, just let us know. I have to call Mr. Roebuck in a couple minutes, so I will have to end the stream soon. Of course, if you need anything, please email us. Please let us know. If you're struggling with anything, always email us, comment on Google Classroom. We will do our best to get back to you. The reason it takes us a while is because Mr. Roebuck and I are answering so many different questions from different people. We're getting like 20 emails every 10 minutes, so we're trying our best to keep up with you and to keep up with the classes in general. All right, so there's nothing else. I know my live stream is a little bit behind. I think I'm looking at myself talking now, and I'm still talking about, I don't know, Korea maybe? I don't know. Yeah, but if you need anything, come to us. We'll help you. Remember, history class is the last thing that should be stressing you out. All right. Thank you guys for joining me. I hope you have a great day. If you haven't done so, make sure you submit your comments and questions and notes. All assignments are due on Sunday now. Okay, they said it's going to be like a regular online class. Assign things on Monday, due on Sunday. All right, have a lovely day, be safe, and I hope you had some fun. And I hope you learned something. So long.